Hi everyone, it's Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat. I am back with a Christmas in August project. Our theme for this month is carol singers. For those that don't know, I have a Facebook group that's a Christmas in July Facebook group, born out of my Christmas in July endeavours, where I make a video for every day of July making a festive project. On the months in between, I then do a prompt every single month. This month, carol singers. I clearly wasn't thinking when I thought of this prompt because I didn't have a clue as to what on earth I would make from the stash that I already had, so I bought new. I bought Heaven and Nature Sing stamp stencil and die sets from the Greetery. I thought they looked really pretty, very different from anything that I owned. So I've not used them yet, they're not even out of the packaging, and I need to now work out how to use them. So you're going to watch me do that on this video and come up with a project at the end of it, hopefully. Please do give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this video. Please leave me a comment below and as to whether you enjoy this or not, and whether you like the video and the project. You know, you're going to love the video, because I am the consummate professional who has filmed this intro about 9 times now. Yeah, so please leave me a comment and subscribe to see future videos. Life is chaotic at the moment. My brain's not fully working, so this might be an interesting project. We'll see what happens. Okay, this was a challenge of a project. Obviously my mental space is a little bit mad at the moment. It's a little bit full of stuff, and it took me a little while to work this out, which I think is both an indication of my mad head, but also an indication that maybe the instructions aren't as clear as they should be as to what you're meant to do and how you're meant to make these cards. The other thing that then caused me a problem was the dies, and I hate it when they're like this, are not, that they're not cut apart. They've got the little taggy thing between them, and I have zero idea where I have put my little trimmers, the little wire clippers or whatever they are. I've completely lost them. So I did take about 30 minutes hunting and then just gave up. So I cut most of the footage out, which just looked like I wasn't doing anything. But the reality was I've tipped out drawers, I have opened cupboards, I've gone through boxes, I've done all sorts of things, and I've just given up. I have no idea what I have done with the little clippers, but I really hate it when companies leave the dies still attached to each other. I know it means that they've got a cheaper process, I think, you know, to do it, but it really frustrates me. But never mind. I'm trying to be positive, trying to be not negative. It is a beautiful die set. Those 2 layered dies are absolutely beautiful. And so what I've done is I've just die cut it as a whole. And yeah, well, you know, we'll use some of those bits, it's fine. But it's not ideal having it so that you kind of have to die cut the whole thing, but never mind. I have die cut it out of white cardstock. I have realised that the best way to do the stenciling is by having the die cuts already done. So I die cut it and then started adding. Now, I've kept to a fairly similar colour palette as was on the actual example of the packaging, just because by this point I was already exhausted and frustrated, and I'm now sitting in an even bigger mess than when I started. So yes, I have kept to greens and browns. I do bring in a sort of brighter pink colour for one of the words later, but I've kept to a fairly similar to the actual packaging. I'm just working out how this works, and so the way it seems to work is this one that I'm doing now with the sort of like little spriggy leaves. Actually, you do that onto the thinner die cut, not the layered die cut. Does that make sense? You can see there I'm also having problems with the fact that when I then go to stamp and stuff, I'm also struggling because of the fact that the die keeps lifting off the plate, off the sticky mat. These are new stamps, so that's probably why they're extra sticky, but it's always handy if you keep the negative space that you've die cut from. I think that sometimes helps. Okay, so at this point I worked out, right, you do that layer of stamping onto the die cut, then you take the thinner die cut, and then you add that layer of the leaves. I think it's called layer 3, could be layer 2, I don't know. You do that onto the smaller die cut because you're going to cover that up on the layer. Do you know what? It's so pretty at the end. I know I'm doing a really bad job of describing what I'm doing here. I'm hoping you're following along with at least the visual. It is not the easiest of stamps and dies and stuff to use. I genuinely don't think it was just me being a bit daft. I just don't think it's the easiest. Now, these are brand new stamp sets, so they're all a bit sticky, and I did find a few of them weren't manufactured well, so they were actually stuck to each other. Yeah, I'm not going to become, I think, the biggest advocate for using the Greetery, just from this example alone. I haven't used their stuff before. I think I've used one of their stencils before, but that's it. And stencils, aren't they? So, but yeah, I'm not feeling the love for this company at this moment in time, I must admit, even though the artwork is beautiful. I just don't think that they've designed their stamps in a particularly intuitive way, and their instructions are rubbish. But we all know I'm not very good with instructions, so maybe it's not me. Now, I'm starting to build up my sentiment part. I have cut this down to a American-sized card panel, but I will cut it down further. But I do end up making my card blank American-sized, basically, because I thought it worked the best for this particular shape that I've created. Because this card, and spoiler alert, there are going to be 2 cards, but this card I am pretty much following what the example does, because that's my way of understanding how is it meant to work. I will in future probably do things slightly differently. For example, I like the let a little bit off to the right, not on the left. That's just how I like it. Will I use it so that it's always to the right of the treble clef? No, probably not. So it's things like that. When you're first using something, especially something a little bit more complicated, and especially if your brain's a little bit tired, just follow instructions the best that you can. Follow an example. It's a good way of testing it out and understanding what does this set do, and then you can start to be creative with it and do it your own way. But yeah, I must admit, I love that final panel. I think it looks really pretty. Now, I decided, because I had just followed along and this had been going on for so long by this point with the whole hunting thing, to then try and keep it fairly simple. So I've added a layer of this glitter cardstock. Now, I'm saying cardstock, it's quite thin. It's perfect for die cutting. It's the Diamond Press adhesive cardstock. It's a glittery one, and yes, sensible Catherine would at this point have gutted that panel so that she'd got some left over, but you know what, didn't do that because that would take a little bit of brain. I didn't have any of that. So now I'm going to make my card blank, and I'm going to make it American sized, which is 5 1/2, 4 1/4, or 4 1/2 and 5 1/4. Can't remember, something like that. Oh gosh, so sorry. This video it's not my normal standard, but you know, it is what it is. I then decided, right, okay, I need to do something about the inside of my card. I've put all of the outside together. It's got that little tiny bit of dimension because you've got those 2 die cuts on top, not very much. And because this year I'm doing something about the insides of cards and trying my hardest to do that as well as the outside, I decided to die cut another one of those smaller of the treble clefs, the thinner die cut, the one that's actually just the treble clef with a few leaves, and I have added that to the inside, kept it dead simple. But you will have noticed that I'd also die cut those tiny little panels, and that's because I wanted to just see what the little leaf clusters look like. So there are some 3 stamps for each of the 3 clusters, so 9 stamps in total, which make these 3 little tiny clusters. Here you go. And I wanted to see what they look like, and I thought, well, I might as well just do those. Originally, I was going to put them on the inside of this card, so I kept them to the same colours, but I don't. I end up making a second card, which is a bit surprising considering how tired I am, how mad this had been. But at first, when I started trying to add them onto this card, I just thought, no, do you know what? I'm not going to do that. And I like to just use up the bits that are on my desk. So I thought, do you know what? Let's make another card with the other phrase that is on this particular set. But first of all, I've got to make these 3 little clusters. This is not efficient card making, just so you know. This is not an efficient way to make things at all. What I should have done was mounted all of my stamps on little mounts, done all of the dark green first, the light green next, and the brown next, or whatever, done it that way, whereas instead I'm all over the place. I have also got very limited room on my desk now because I've pulled everything out of the drawers, and yeah, just it's all a bit chaotic. And as you can see, my card keeps lifting from the back of my stamp wheel. It was a challenge, and sometimes crafting is a challenge. You know what? Professional card makers who want to put out professional YouTube videos probably would have gone, forget this, for a barrel of laughs, start again. But I'm not in the place where I can do that. I just have to just crack on and get on with it. And you get to see real life, and I hope that that's what you're here for, is real life and not something super professional. Well, you wouldn't still be in this video if you were looking for something super professional. So I have stamped my words, and now I'm just going to add those 3 little die cuts onto there. Again, it all goes a bit chaotic because I decided I'm going to use glue dots, and I was thinking about glue dots being doubled up and couldn't find my smaller glue dots at first, so I thought I'd try and cut apart a larger one. That doesn't work, that just jams up my scissors. Yeah, more hunting, found the correct size glue dots, and I just doubled them up just so there was a bit of dimension underneath those little sprigs, little clusters, but not much. But because I've done this directly onto the card base, I'm now not happy. That's far too clean and simple for me. That's not what I do. I do not do clean and simple well. It also didn't feel very balanced, so I'm now cutting other panels and deciding what to do. And I have got some more of that adhesive cardstock from Diamond Press. You'll find there's quite a few bits of that come into my cards from now on because I've got quite a few bits and pieces left over from design team work I've done. So I am now taking that dark green. I am embossing it with one of my favourite embossing folders. You'll have seen it many times before if you've been watching my videos for a while. And that's this one that says Merry Christmas in different fonts all over. Taking a little sandpaper just to take the edge off, to give it a little bit of that white core coming through on the cardstock. And then I am going to add my panel with some foam adhesive. Now I take some glue as well as my ATG, and then I'm going to add that to the front. So that's now my card panel that is just a little bit smaller than a standard British card. So I'm going to make my British card. I should have let that glue dry a little bit longer and put something heavy on it. Instead I managed to move it, but never mind. It's all fine in the end. So I take some garden green cardstock, and that is going to be my base for my card. It's got that darker green in there, and then I'm just adding 3 sparkly pinky coloured gems that are perfect. They sort of go with the brownie flowers that are on the little stamped cluster. Now, because it's a coloured card base, I need to do something for the inside anyway in terms of an insert, and obviously we're all about adding little bits of decoration to the inside. I just stamp one of those clusters. I keep it really simple and don't do anything mad. So about an hour and a half later, I finally finished my cards. And do I love them? Yes. Will I be actively grabbing this stamp and die set in future? Probably not so much. Well, do you know what? I probably will with the treble clef, etc., but probably not so much the actual stamps for the sentiments. But, you know, you never know. I'm thinking it would look lovely with golds and purples and things and embossing, but it is fiddly, so it's not one that I'm necessarily going to grab huge amounts. I actually love this card. This card, I think, is really cute. So I think I prefer this one, but I do love that treble clef. Don't get me wrong. I think I fulfilled the brief for carol singers. Obviously, there's no singer in sight, but there are the carols that they will sing. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Please do stick around. I've got a couple of bloopers just because I thought it was funny. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, bye-bye. Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inky Figure. Hello everyone, it is Catherine. Hi everyone, it is Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat. I am back with another Christmas in July video. I'm sorry, not sure if I like this camera angle. I look knackered. Hi everyone, it is Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat. Christmas in July project for, no, it's not Christmas in July, it's Christmas in August.